Phoenix Splash TV. You voted for it, you got it! Shenmue 1 versus Shenmue 2, the big debate amongst Shenmue fans. Which one's better? Now, if you're familiar with my show, you might have seen me compare The Legend of Zelda to the original Metal Gear, and I also compared Shenmue to Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. But I'm going to do something different with this one, so grab some popcorn, or cocaine, because this one's a doozy. I'm going to break it down and compare it by using 5 categories: gameplay, aesthetics, story, replay value, and since it's Shenmue, the special round will be minigames. So let's begin with the most important thing in a video game, the gameplay. Let's start with the fighting system. Now this one's pretty close because it pretty much uses the same engine, or so it seems. In Shenmue 1, one of my favorite things to do in that game is customizing Ryo. You can make him good at throwing moves, punching moves, kicking moves, or just good all round. There are so many places to train. You have parks, the parking lot, and Fukusan to spar with just about every day. The more you practice the new moves, the more powerful they get, and they even start to look different. In Shenmue 2, I feel like it's presented weaker. There isn't nearly enough places to practice your new moves, and the only place to practice is at Lotus Park where you face Janmin, and you can't throw him like you could throw with Fukusan. Also, it doesn't give you the option to train a specific area with Ryo. I will say this, there are more free battles to make up for all of the mistakes. In Kowloon, you can even fight for money, which is really cool. What about the exploration? A big part of the Shenmue gameplay. One thing I like about Shenmue 1 is that every NPC had a story and something interesting to say. Well, most of them. Each NPC seemed like a unique character. While the setting was much smaller than Shenmue 2's, it's more detailed. The main difference is the use of the phone. You can call different people and discover new conversations with people. You can also zoom in on more things and analyze more things. Shenmue 2 is pretty much the opposite. The bigger it got, the less detailed it was. Many of the NPCs say the exact same things, however, they are more helpful and will even let you follow them to the destination that you're looking for. Because of the bigger settings, many more secrets were added within Shenmue 2, which I think is pretty cool. In Kowloon of Shenmue 2, there are many buildings that can be explored, and these are huge. The more you explore, the more you're rewarded, with extra collectibles and extra fight scenes. There are also many side stories that can be discovered as well, like Fang Mei's birthday and the battles at the Golden Arcade. Another aspect in Shenmue gameplay is collecting those toy capsules, and oh boy, this one's obvious. Now, I'm a collect freak. When it's Pokemon, I gotta catch them all. When Fire Emblem, I gotta collect all the troops, and when it's Shenmue, I have to get all the toy capsules. All of them. This is nearly impossible to do in Shenmue 1. Why? Because of that fucking bitch, Ine-san, doesn't raise my fucking allowance. Wanna get Gold Duro and all the Mr. Yukawas? Well, you probably have a better chance of winning the actual lottery before you lose all your yen. Even when you get a job and get lots of money, you cannot go back to the Abe store. Ryo just wants to kill the Mad Angels instead. Shenmue 2 does this way better. Not only is it easier to collect the rare toy capsules, it's way easier to make money. Gambling. You can even sell your own toy capsules, so they actually have a purpose, which is pretty cool. Also, Shenmue 2 has a hell of a lot more of toy capsules, and extra items that you can collect. Now, the one thing that Shenmue 1 has over Shenmue 2 in the collecting aspect is the cassettes. They do not exist in Shenmue 2, but I'll mention more about these later. Finally, for gameplay, the QTEs. Again, I prefer Shenmue 2's. Now, I know most people hate QTEs, but I feel like Shenmue does them right, both of the Shenmues. They're always full of action, and they compensate for long cutscenes. I feel like Shenmue 2 does them better due to the extra mechanic that they add to the QTEs. It's pretty much as simple as that. For gameplay, Shenmue 2 gets the point. Every aspect other than the fighting system was built upon enormously. Shenmue 1 just couldn't compete with it. for the story. The Shenmue series is a very story-driven game. Shenmue is no RPG. Shenmue is no fighting game. It's a free experience. If we're talking about immersing the player into an alternate world, then Shenmue 1 captures that picture perfectly. Everything happens like it would in real life. Stores close, and sometimes you have to wait a certain amount of minutes to do the next objective. To many, this was Shenmue 1's biggest flaw, because this meant that the player would be left with nothing to do until a certain time happened. To many, this ruined the pacing of the story and the game, which led many people to hate Shenmue. In Shenmue 2, there is a wait option that lets you bypass time and allow for the next event to happen right away. Some say that this takes away from the game creator's initial vision, but I say it doesn't. You know why? Because it's an option. The game doesn't force you to do it. If you want to explore, you can, and if you want the story faster, you can just hit the wait option. This keeps the story going and increases the pacing. Like I said before, Shenmue 1 puts the player in a real-life world. It has more realistic characters and realistic settings and actions. Shenmue 2 is where the story becomes more fantasy. The actions are more unrealistic. I mean, just watch this. I swear, Shenmue 2's old people are like the Justice League of China. Now, what about the characters? Here's where most Shenmue fans and I will probably disagree. I believe Shenmue 1's supporting characters are better. Why? Because they're fully developed. Shenmue 2's characters are shrouded in mystery. Some people speculate that Shenhua is a dragon, while others think that Joy is a prostitute. We don't know why Shuin cries for her brother. Is he dead? Now, of course, this was intentional because unlike Shenmue 1's characters, it's speculated that we'll be seeing Shenmue 2's characters in future installments of the Shenmue series. Shenmue 1's characters had to be fully developed because that's the only time that they'll be seen. There's also romance in Shenmue 1 that is absent in Shenmue 2. Sure, there's the extra scene with Fangmei, but it's obvious that Ryo doesn't have any feelings for her. Another thing that Shenmue 1 has over Shenmue 2 is completion. Many of the elements that Shenmue 2 introduces are to prepare us for future Shenmues. Shenmue 1 completed many of the story arcs that it introduced. Nozomi moved on to Canada, Tom moved on to America, Ine-san fully realized that she can't control Ryo. Sure, Shenmue 1 left some things in the air, like Londi, but Shenmue 2 left practically everything in the air and drove fans crazy. So crazy that we donated a large sum of money to get a sequel. The point goes to Shenmue 1. I love analyzing Shenmue 2 and its theories and its characters, but the more complete story is Shenmue 1. Now for the aesthetics. Now what do I mean by that? I mean all of the extra stuff in the game that the player doesn't notice right away. The graphics, the music, the directing, everything the developer adds onto the game. And with the Shenmue series, it played a pretty important part. No matter what Shenmue 1 can deliver graphically, it just can't compete with Guilin. Guilin is one of the most beautiful settings in gaming history. So if we have to compare, Shenmue 2 wins at graphics. As far as directing goes, I don't know, I'd say it's about even. Sure, Shenmue 1 has a lot less action, but Shenmue 1 wasn't going for that epic story, so it's hard to compare. Also, I don't know much about filmography, so to me as a casual, I'd say it's pretty even. The one thing I noticed more about Shenmue 1 was the magic weather. I felt like it was more apparent in Shenmue 1 than in Shenmue 2. And not just me, other people feel the same way. I personally didn't care that much for the magic weather, to be honest. I mean, it still rains in Shenmue 2, and it's not Christmas anymore, so I can totally see why the developers didn't really apply as much magic weather as they did in the first Shenmue. I mean, it doesn't have to snow anymore. Now the music. Now this one's a bit hard for me. First off, I'd like to say that it seems like the first Shenmue had a bigger emphasis on music. Maybe more of the budget went there than it did in Shenmue 2. However, I feel like Shenmue 2 compensated for that. Shenmue 2 focused more on Chinese-inspired music, whereas Shenmue 1 focused on what was more popular in Japan at the time. You know, like jazz. As beautiful as Shenmue 2's music is, it just can't compete with Shenmue 1's. The opening orchestrated song, the ending piano piece, and Wish, which had an entire scene dedicated to it. Not to mention, you can collect cassette tapes, and each of them had their own song. For aesthetics, the point goes to Shenmue 1. Shenmue 1's music is just so hard to compete with. It's really, really good. One of the best soundtracks in video game history. With a smaller game comes more aesthetics, and that's why the point goes to Shenmue 1. Now for the special round, the minigames. Good, I don't have to say that damn word anymore. First off, let's look at how minigames are supposed to be played in Shenmue 1. You know how people complain that there's a lot of doing nothing in Shenmue? Well, instead of doing nothing, you're supposed to be playing those damn minigames. Playing the arcades in Shenmue 1 passes time, while in Shenmue 2, they don't. So in Shenmue 1, I feel like some of the minigames are supposed to be played like that. But that's about all that Shenmue 1 has over Shenmue 2. Shenmue 2 has gambling, so no more Ine-san allowance. Shenmue 2 has all the arcades that Shenmue 1 has, plus 2 more, Outrun and Afterburner. It also adds Lucky Hit, Roll It on Top, Big or Small, and the list goes on. But let's talk about what Shenmue 1 has that Shenmue 2 doesn't have, the forklifts. Now, some people love the forklift race and love the forklifts. Some people hate them. Really hate them. Now, I personally like the forklifts. It grew on me, but the best thing about them was the races, and that's a pretty good plus for Shenmue 1. Shenmue 2 counters it though with duck racing, which is really hidden in the game, but it's there and it's more challenging. Now, which do I like better, ducks or forklifts? It really doesn't matter because Shenmue 2 just devours Shenmue 1 in this special round. I didn't even mention catching the leaves. Now, there are a lot of minigames that are annoying in Shenmue 2, like this guy, and airing out the books, but you don't have to work in the crates, you can just gamble. Also, you don't have to air out the books, apparently. It'll fuck up the game, but it's totally possible. Special round goes to Shenmue 2. Sorry Mark, Shenmue 2 is just too fun in this department. You can literally lose yourself in these minigames. Final round, replay value. Replay value, the final straw, the tiebreaker. We have a tie, right? Replay value, playing the game again. Both the Shenmues have really high replay values. Both games share hidden scenes, hidden battles, hidden moves, hidden conversations. Okay, they're both pretty similar in what they share in replay value. So what does Shenmue 1 have that Shenmue 2 doesn't? Well, the passport disc. It keeps track of all the scenes that you unlock and you can rewatch them. It keeps track of the music that you found in the game. Shenmue 1 also has the 70-man battle rush, which you unlock after beating the game. To me, this mode made me want to play Shenmue 1 again, to get the perfect Rio and get a good time. Now, what does Shenmue 2 have that Shenmue 1 doesn't? Now, before I begin, I must tell you that I'm American, and therefore I've been comparing the American Shenmue 2 and the American Shenmue 1. And Shenmue 2, you can replay all the bonus fights that you have unlocked, and all the minigames that you came across in your game. And they also have this gnarly photo scavenger hunt. I should mention that you can take still shot photos at any time of the game. Shenmue 2 sets up the scavenger hunt of certain people that you have to take pictures of. Once you do, you unlock art, comic strips, and it's pretty cool. In Shenmue 2, you can also re-battle people at darts just in case you didn't want to gamble your money against them. Like I said before, Shenmue 2 is a huge game, and you won't be able to see everything with just one playthrough. Shenmue 2 has a lot more stuff than Shenmue 1. It's just as simple as that. On my first 3 playthroughs of Shenmue 2, I didn't even know you can face Izumi in combat. It has so much replay value that I'm playing it right now. I'm dead serious. Also, that toy collection. It's completely possible to have a complete collection in this game, and some toys are easy to miss and you'll have to replay the game to get them. Point goes to Shenmue 2. Now I love the 70-man battle and the extra scenes that are easy to miss, but Shenmue 2's replay value is off the charts. Shenmue 2 probably has the highest replay value of any game I've ever played till this day. In conclusion, I believe Shenmue 2 is the better game. If you look at the score, everything that makes Shenmue a video game is higher with the sequel. Sure, the first one follows Yu Suzuki's vision more, but I feel like Shenmue 2 is more of a game, and it still maintains a lot of realism, just not as much as the first one. Personally, I play them together. Around Christmas I play Shenmue 1, and then I play Shenmue 2, and I feel like that's how it should be played. With that said, I feel like if you're introducing someone to the Shenmue series, it's best to start them at 1, because they'll be more invested into the story, and will be more willing to want to see what happens next. Now, of course, all of this stuff is just from my perspective, and please note that I don't have a team grinding to find details that make one better than the other. This is just what I personally think. I think Shenmue 2 is the better game. Do you agree with me, or do you think Shenmue 1 is the better game? Leave your perspective in the comments below. Don't forget to share this video and give it a like. And if you subscribe now, I'll give you a high five. This is Game Analyzer, signing off.